The response by the Electoral Commission's chairperson to a petition calling for her removal from office has brought out fresh allegations, this time against some deputy chairpersons at the Commission, with the various political parties expressing concern about what appears to be serious rifts amongst the top managers there. In a bit, we'll bring you the reactions from the various political parties. But Charlotte will say, in her response to a petition brought against her by some unnamed EC workers, accused her deputy in charge of finance and administration of signing contracts worth more than $40 million without authorization. She also said Deputy Commissioner in charge of operations, Amadou Sule, bagged some $6 million from political parties without the knowledge of the finance department of the commission. He is said to have used party primaries as a, quote, private commercial project, unquote. The Deputy Chair Finance and Administration has also been accused of supervising a finance department which consistently flouts financial regulations. Mrs. Osei has described her has branded the deputy as an incompetent leader. The EC boss vowed to trigger investigations into the conduct of the three, one of whom is already a subject of investigations by the Economic and Organized Crime Office, YOCO. For the governing New Patriotic Party's 2016 campaign manager, Peter McMahon, the performance of the Electoral Commission has been below par. For him, the allegations are just the beginning of more revelations. He tells Joy News in the following interview he's willing to testify under oath before a commission of inquiry that will probe the operations of the EC. Mr. McMahon describes the revelations as stinking.
I mean, from both sides, the petition and the answers, both of them stink. I mean, for me, it is a question of how the operations of an organization like the Electoral Commission has performed. Below belt. They've performed below belt. And anytime you raise an issue with the Electoral Commission, the answers you get is that it is an independent commission. But I kept saying that their independence cannot supersede the citizenry of this country. I kept saying that. Now that the cat is out of the bag, or should I even say it's coming out of the bag, because more will come. I think we have to wait. And I will call for a general, multi-dimensional inquiry, parliamentary or quasi-judicial, to investigate things that are coming on. And we can be invited to share our views on it. Even if, and the word is if the petition sails through, there's still the need to look at the structure and operations of the Electoral Commission for our future and for our own good as a democracy. Even if the 3 or 4 or 5 people at the helms of the affair are asked to step aside, there's still the need to look at the structure, operations of the Electoral Commission for our own good and our future as a democratic country.
Do you feel vindicated?
Well, I think it's early. It's too early to feel vindicated. It's too early because I, for example, have not been given the opportunity to speak.
You have things you want to speak about.
Of course, we have to speak about it. And I will do that under a commission of inquiry or something. People must swear an oath and speak.
You feel there's more that we ought to know than we are even hearing?
Well, I wouldn't say that, but I want to ask questions. I want to speak my mind on it. And I want to do this under oath.
Staff of the Electoral Commission are unwilling to talk about the issue. Not even the Communications Department will speak with the media. Joy News' Bernice Abubaid reports that the Director of Communications and his deputy both say they are yet to be briefed on the matter, while further inquiries reveal the chairperson, Madam Charlotte Osei, was preparing for her appearance before Parliament.
I'm here at the EC's headquarters located at Ridge in Accra, to find out if the internal wrangling that has gone public has in any way affected work here at the EC's headquarters. You may recall sometime last week, some staff petitioned the president to impeach the EC chairperson. They cite, among others, that she is arrogant and some conduct of hers could have plunged the nation into civil war during the 2016 general election. Well, Madame Charlotte Osei, the EC chairperson, has responded responded in a 17-page document. She also says that 2 of her deputies have performed acts of insubordination against her. She says they've signed contracts and signed documents without recourse to the process here at the Electoral Commission. So, has this in any way affected work here at the Electoral Commission? I'm here to find out. Per my observation, walking through the hallways of the Electoral Commission's offices, today is business as usual. Workers are, however, tight-lipped about this issue that has gone public and whether it's affecting their work or not. We visited the office of the EC's Communication Directorate, and the EC's Comms Director, Mr. Eric Jakwasu, and his deputy, Yusuf Ayuba, are also tight-lipped. They say they cannot speak because they've not been briefed and authorized to do so. The EC chairperson is also unable to speak. We are told that she's preparing to appear before Parliament Tuesday to respond to some matters affecting the commission. Mr. Amadou Sule, who's also been mentioned by the EC's chairperson in her response, is also unable to speak, but we are told by a personal assistant who gave his name only as Theo that he's doing well but is currently attending to some other matters. Currently, we know Yoko is still investigating some matters, and Madame Georgina Opoku-Amankwa is still on leave as she was directed to. We are yet to pick any information if the President has forwarded the petition seeking the Electoral Commissioner's impeachment to the Chief Justice. Our fingers are crossed, waiting to see how things will pan out in Parliament on Tuesday when the EC chairperson appears before the House. For Joy News, my name is Benis Abubedu, coming to you from the EC's headquarters here at Ridge in Accra.
Well, still on this issue, we've been joined on the line by Deputy General Secretary of the Opposition National Democratic Congress, George Lawson. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Lawson. Now, we know that the National Democratic Congress has already spoken about this issue. We heard the minority leader at the news conference by the NDC, and they've indicated that they believe that this is an attempt by the current administration to remove the EC chairperson. What's your take on the recent revelations that have come up, especially from the EC chairperson?
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's worrying, very worrying. An institution that is supposed to oversee democratic processes in this country, that's the way I say it, and it's very worrying. And we in the NDC know that for a fact that certain things have happened before them, and we are just watching.
When you say certain things have happened before this, what are these things? At the appropriate time you hear it. Yes. Why are you unwilling to share with us now?
No, not for now. Not for now.
Okay, what exactly?
Events unfold, we'll know when and how and where to let you know.
Can you give us a clue as to some of these things that you say have happened?
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. But we are not surprised at events. We are not surprised because
which one doesn't surprise you?
Prior to this, yes. So we are not surprised. Maybe that failed. So this is another one, another move. So we are waiting, monitoring, and I'm sure at the appropriate time you hear from us.
All right. Now, the recent revelations that have come up, the counter allegations that have been made by the EC chairperson, is that something that surprises you too?
No, it's worrying. To me, it's worrying. But the major significant things have happened, or thing has happened, and I'm sure that is not a catch-up world. I'm sure that is why there's a different move that they are making to clear the EC box.
Now, I'm not sure it sounds like you're speaking in parables, especially because you're not sharing anything with us. You're just leaving us guessing. If you could be more, frank and, if you could help us with some clues as to what you're talking about, because all that you're saying is just...
For now, no clues, for now. But at the appropriate time you hear. We are just seeing how events are unfolding. We're watching. We're observing whatever is going on. But again, the heating of heads at the Electoral Commission is worrying. Very, very worrying. We thought it was one, but now it's gone beyond one. So, and the revelations, as to whether they are true or not, is another matter.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. George Lawson.
Thank you.
George Lawson is Deputy General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress. He talks about the fact that they're aware of, so they have some information, except he's unwilling to share that information with us. He believes that this is a second attempt to get rid of the Electoral Commission chairperson, which means that there has been a previous attempt. And he says that at the appropriate time, they're going to make those revelations known to us. But I've been joined in the studio right now by Kofi Asamoah Siao. He is a policy advisor for the Progressive People's Party. Good evening, and thank you for making time to join us. What do you make of all that's going on?
Well, first of all, let's start from where Mr. George Lawson left off. He said this is an attempt to remove the EC. Irrespective of anybody's desire to take the EC chair out, we need to focus on what is in the public domain or is before Yoko or has gone to the president. Whether somebody likes the EC chair or not is not the matter. It's immaterial. And the NDC was quick to hold a press conference to say that they will resist any attempt to politically remove the EC chair. They have the right to resist any political manipulated attempts to remove the EC, but we will also resist any attempt by the NDC to politicize this matter. It has nothing to do with whether you like the EC chair or not. It has nothing to do whether the EC chair is loved by the MPP or PPP or, for that matter, any group of Ghanaians. If you look at the allegations before us, it appears that these are public officers who have come together, conspired to violate our processes as we have put in place for it to guide their actions and their activities, and they have not done so. And it's like a relationship that has gone bad. So everybody has accumulated weapons or arsenals in their corner, and they are throwing it out there, causing withering attacks on each other. And you come and say that it is a political attempt to remove who? It's the EC chair speaking. In fact, in her written response, she seems to be making admissions. She is incriminating herself that yes, we violated procurement procedures, but because the commission came together to do that, it is okay. How can you say that? I hope she's sending these responses, and these responses are valid, and since it's coming from you, it is something she has written, and she's been advised by a lawyer, because you can't admit if 2-3 people commit a crime, it's the same magnitude, whether it was committed by one person or not. So the fact that 3 people have come together to commit a crime doesn't exonerate you from violating a procedure that you have put in place.
So for the PPP, she has questions to answer.
A lot of questions. In fact, she's complicit in the commission of those crimes. And she shouldn't tell us that somehow Mr. Amadou Sule is the one who has taken 6 million cedis from political parties. Or Madame Georgina Opoku-Amankwa is the one who has signed illegal contract to the tune of 400,000. She is the boss of the place. The responsibility stops with her. She has ultimate responsibility for the actions of her deputy commissioners. If those faceless people, as she describes them, have not gone to Yoko or to the presidency for the impeachment processes to be initiated, was she going to tell us, the people of Ghana, that she owes to us an accountability? This whole thing about Electoral Commission being independent and so on has been put as a shield, and they stand behind it and refuse to be accountable to the Ghanaian public.
How does the PPP believe this should be handled?
First of all, we need the 3 commissioners, if you look at the magnitude of the allegation, to step aside. If I were in their shoes, we will leave the scene, because the one that caused the other 2, or the 1 commissioner and a senior management person, to proceed on leave is lesser than this one, even coming from the chairperson herself. So the 3 of them must step aside for a full-scale investigation to be conducted into this matter. And MPP and NDC people should stop this politicization. Why? Every time something sensitive like this has to be discussed, MDC currently has a press conference and says that it's a witch hunt attempt. Who told, is it the PPP who told Madame Charlotte to say, to hire sorry at law in violation of procurement procedures. It didn't come from us.
All
So
right.
the president, the first side is that the 3 Matsepa side, there are 2 processes ongoing. We want that the president will push the petition to the CJ and that eminent committee set up, and anybody who has information about this thing must be brought there so that we go to the end of this matter. It can't be left to die a natural death because MPP has taken a stand and NDC is on the other side.
All right. Mr. Kofi Asamoah of the PPP, thank you very much. I've been joined on the phone line now by he's a former Director of Operations at the Electoral Commission. He's now the National Coordinator of CODIO, and certainly he would have some insight as to all the things that have taken place there. Thank you for making time to join us, Mr. Ahin. Good evening. Now,
Thank you.
Are you surprised at the revelations and allegations and counter-allegations that are coming up?
Yes, I'm really surprised, because this shouldn't have happened. Why is the commission washing its dirty linen in public? I mean, what is this? For those of us who have worked there, this is it's a very sad moment for us.
Have you been aware of some of these claims prior to it coming out?
Yes, it was being rumored, It's from the grapevine. I, for one, heard about the fact that all wasn't well, amongst the commissioners. The relationships there were murky. People were not, on good terms with each other. And I suspected that there was something really going on wrong there. Until,
at the time, as the National Coordinator of CODIO, you didn't think that it would have implications for the 2016 elections?
Why not? We said it. If you remember, there was this day at Parliament when somebody, I think it was the majority leader, I think they were presenting a budget or something. And then one of the ladies there, I think one of the commission was questioned of the whereabouts of the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. And she said she didn't know. That was where I started thinking that no, all is not well. And putting my head down, listening to people over there, because you could hear that there were whispers of misunderstandings, people didn't like each other, and that kind of thing. You see, so, but of course, I thought this was with time, this was going to be patched up. I didn't know it would be blown to this level for people to be accusing each other here and there about criminalities and that kind of thing. It's really bad, honestly.
Mr. Ahin, with your knowledge of what takes place at the Commission, having been there before, and with the revelations that have come up, do you think that the 2016 elections may have been compromised?
No, I don't think so. I think they did very well by covering up and at the same time working. Remember, this thing is coming from the top. Of course, it can simmer down, but remember, there are technical men always at the helm of affairs of the commission. The regional directors, at the directorate, the national level, the people there are always committed, and they would always want to come out with a good election. So that maybe have saved us.
Now, one of the allegations that has come up has to do with one deputy chairperson being in a position to actually illegally transfer votes. You don't think that is worrying?
Yeah, that is why I'm saying that, these things in the first place shouldn't have been happening, because somebody who saw this thing being done should have even stopped it in the first place. Why should you sit down for somebody to transfer 1,000 and some, that big number? And if these things have not been reported, does it mean that whoever did it should have been left to go scot-free? How can somebody go to the machine and be, transferring votes? If you are sitting in the chair and there's this thing happening, what do you do? What do you do?
What would you suggest as the way out?
Because it definitely will compromise the election.
What would you suggest as the way out?
There are 2 ways to this. Morally, and I think the Peace Council has started something. They want to morally patch them up, trying to see if they can broker a peace accord between them. But even if you do that, there's this other thing that has come out. Ghanaians have now been told And remember, for example, the NPP was talking about polling stations that those days the Supreme Court hearing. There were allegations about polling stations and the maneuvers and whatever. You see, so what I'm trying to say is that in future or in the next few weeks or months, there should be a thorough probe into all these allegations that have been made. Remember, Ghanaians will have to have confidence in the Electoral Commission. And that confidence is very important if we are to progress or to go further in our democratic experiment. You see, so this thing has to be thoroughly investigated, and then the truth or whatever should come out for everybody to know, for Ghanaians to be satisfied that they are dealing with a commission that is clean so they can go along with it.
All right, thank you very much, Albert Kofi Ahing. He's National Coordinator of CODEO, but he is also a former Director of Operations at the Electoral Commission. And unfortunately, that's all time would allow us on this particular subject. Thank you very much for joining us in the studio. Kofi Asamoah is a PPP Policy Advisor. But still ahead in the bulletin, former Vice President Kwesi Amissah Arthur would not rule out contesting the flag bearership of the National Democratic Congress, a contest that could pitch him against his former boss.
I'm not considering it, but the people have come to me and I said that I'm thinking about it.
We have all that and more coming up in the bulletin. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to Joy News Prime. I am not considering it, but people have come to me and I told them I am thinking about it. Those are the words of former Vice President Kwesi Amissah Arthur on whether he's considering contesting the flag bearership of the national opposition National Democratic Congress come 2020. There have been reports he will contest, but in an exclusive interview at a ceremony to commemorate the 5th anniversary of the passing of the late President John Evans Mills, the former Vice President said he does not believe he is yet prepared for the job. He spoke with Beatrice Edu.
There are many people who are speculating about this. It's not time. We are trying to make our party into a coherent, cohesive organization. That's all we are interested in. As for leadership, I don't know if there are any serious people who are politicking at this time, because I don't think it's time enough.
But are you considering it?
I'm not considering it, but the people have come to me and I said that I'm thinking about it. Yeah. You have to be very committed to be able to say that I'm ready to take all that. It takes a lot of work. I saw what Prof Mills did. I saw him travel around this country, saw him meet people, I saw him prepare. We have to prepare a message. You have to prepare a program. You can't just want to be president because you want to be president. You want to be president because we want to deliver something to the country. Now, so I'm not there yet.
You said you're not considering it, but people have come to you and you've told them you're thinking about it.
Yeah.
So which of them should we take? That you're thinking about it and there's a possibility that 2020 we should see you?
I like the way you ask your questions. No, I'm not. As of now, I'm not in the race. But nobody knows what will happen in a year's time.
In a related development, son of late President John Mills is demanding the autopsy report of his father's death. Kofi Samata Mills told the media after a commemoration event in Accra that the family is yet to see the autopsy report of Professor Mills 5 years on. Here's a report by Beatrice Edu.
At the Asumji Park, and right behind me you can see the tomb where the former president was laid, and that's where he's resting. A number of dignitaries have already come here to mark this solemn moment.
At that time I was the Eastern Regional Minister. I was having a program in Koforidua. We just broken off for lunch when I had a phone call. Somebody was saying the president had died, and I was like, is that a joke? So I went off the phone and called the secretary to the president, and he was weeping, and I knew it had happened. So I drove straight from Koforidua to the castle, then the seat of government, and other senior people were weeping very sad that the president should die while he's on the throne as the head of state. So that's what happened 5 years ago. And 5 years on, his spirit still lives with us. He was such a noble and visionary leader, selfless, committed to seeing to the betterment of this country.
You were saying that you think he should have lived longer. You think there was something that could have been done to make him live longer than he did?
No, he was unwell. I knew he was unwell. So I remember his last medical travel to the United States. When he returned and I saw him on TV, I was not very happy the way I saw him. He looked ill.
Former aide of the late President Mills said he, together with others, are working hard to keep the memories of the former president alive.
We've stopped shedding tears, but you can't forget. I can't still forget 24th of July 2012, seeing the lifeless body of the former president, my boss, teacher, mentor, friend, at the ICU unit at 37. It's still there. It's just fresh. The Mills Institute, I'm happy to be the founder and the CEO of it. A few of us have come together and we think that we must continue to keep the memory of Professor Mills very much alive. It's a strong legacy. The brand is a solid brand and we dare not allow the brand to go waste.
Speaking to the media after the event, son of the late president, Kofi Sam Atta Mills, demanded the autopsy report into his father's death.
I knew my father wasn't well, but I didn't expect him to die, of course. But I've heard a lot of stories, but I also believe that in order for you to take an action or to want to know something, there must be some level of evidence and some level of facts. There's been several rumors and stories, but I mean, until I see some concrete, evidence, I don't really have much to say. And if someone was to approach me or if I had to do any sort of investigation to find out, of course, I'll champion the cause because he's my father and I want to know. The hospital never gave the family any autopsy report to show that this and this and this was the cause of why he passed away. So I don't think any member of my family would be able to give evidence of how President Mills passed away.
But conspicuously missing was the wife of the late President Nadu Mills. In attendance also was the former President John Mahama, who asked Ghanaians to learn from the characteristics of the late president.
Still ahead in the bulletin, thousands of Ghanaians are converging in the various regional capitals for possible recruitment into the Ghana Armed Forces, except quite a number may not make it for a variety of rather interesting reasons.
Ladies with very big breasts, very big butts.
Yep, we'll tell you all about it. Stay tuned. Up next, we bring you business news.
Hello, good evening to you. Time now for business. Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, has assured interest rates of commercial banks and the cost of credit would record significant reduction in the coming months. It follows the significant drop in the policy rate by the Bank of Ghana today by 150 basis points to 21%. The following Business Desk report has more.
There have been concerns that it had taken a lot more time than expected for the commercial banks to drop their interest rate in line with the policy rate. But speaking at the MPC press conference today, the governor explained why it has taken a bit longer.
As you are raising the policy rate, the other interest rates in the market follow, and they follow relatively faster, right? But when you are on the decline, when you are going through a disinflation process, the policy rate comes down, but the other rates, especially the lending rate, does not drop as quickly. In other words, what you see there is inertia in the response of the lending rates and other rates to the policy rate.
Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, indicated that the central bank will be tough on commercial banks going forward to help avoid current challenges facing the banking sector.
The operating costs of the banks. The banks have to pay rent for their premises. They are paying salaries. Their IT systems. These are all very expensive sources of, operating costs. And it takes time to improve the efficiencies.
He has also been speaking about the IMF program extension and its impact on monetary targets.
The finance minister added that the budget for 2018 would be set under an IMF program. So effectively, that budget, which carries on to December 2018, will be implemented. I think your question is whether
you expect to meet the targets.
Whether we expect to meet the targets.
Yes, by the end of
and then the question becomes, what sort of targets do you have in mind?
The governor ended the meeting assuring the public of the regulator's resolve to address challenges facing the banking sector.
Meanwhile, financial analyst and head of research of Group Indum, Samuel Kofi Ampa, says he is also hopeful the rate could come down further by the end of the year. He was sharing his thoughts on the new rate announced by the MPC.
If you look at the what government is putting in place in terms of managing the fiscal consolidation process, it clearly tells you that government has been able to manage its expenditure for the long haul. Government has been able, it's the only challenge the government is facing currently is the revenue not meeting its revenue expectations. So for the fiscal side, you could see that a lot of things have been done by the government to support the monetary side. So both sides are working towards achieving some macroeconomic stability. So on the monetary policy side, you could see that really what is not supporting the central bank is the base rate reduction or the lending rate reduction by the commercial banks. But of course, they have also given some reasons why, they've not been doing that. So clearly, you could see also that, the inflation figures are being significantly on the reducing side. You can see the government is doing everything possible. I mean, even with the increase of our international reserves, significantly, it means that government will have some foreign exchange to be able to, move into the market when there's a need for it to do that, to help stabilize the currency for a long haul. So some of the debilitating factors that somehow could bring the economy, in a very volatile situation are being managed significantly, especially with the fiscal side, where government is doing quite well with the fiscal balance consolidation process. And it tells you that really we might even have on the next meeting, the next quarter, if government sees that there has been some significant, if the central bank sees that there has been some significant reduction in macroeconomy, definitely might even have a further reduction of the policy rate.
And in another development, Samuel Kofi Ampa has predicted the cedi will end the year at a marginal appreciation against major international currencies. He explained the various fiscal consolidation measures instituted by government under the current IMF program will help in stabilizing the cedi.
We've seen some levels of depreciation, but it's quite marginal, very marginal. Our estimates, our projection for the end of the year is for the cedi to end the year at 4.4. I mean, -1 plus 1. Okay, so it's not going to be quite, anything different from what we're experiencing now because of how, you should also forget that. You should also forget that we're still in the IMF program, where there's been a lot of, fiscal consolidation, and ensuring that there are no slippages within the government fiscal deficits. Okay, so clearly there will be some management on that side that will hold the value of the currency for a long time, and this is the first year of a new government. So they are now trying to get themselves together to ensure that whatever project that they wanted to happen will happen perhaps in the second half of the year, or maybe another part of the year or this year. That's where maybe when it start happening, when government starts spending, because clearly government is not spending, so you will still have some level of stability on that side as well.
Away from that, the Bank of Ghana has maintained some banks that are in financial distress have until September this year to improve their financial positions. This follows reports that 2 of the 9 banks that are in serious financial distress could be closed down by the central bank. Even though the Bank of Ghana would not want to comment on the said 2 banks in trouble, the head of banking supervision, Raymond Amanfo, tells Joy Business liquidation would be the last option.
Of you are saying and are thinking that the only action available to the central bank, and for that matter, is liquidation. The governor was very specific. He said that liquidation is a last option. Right. So what we are doing is that we have given them the time as prescribed by the law to resolve.
And that is what they have till September, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Can all these issues be resolved before August 30? That's where the next board meeting is supposed to happen.
Let's get there. Let's get there.
The governor talked about being tough going forward. How tough would the Bank of Ghana be?
You see, you have to talk to the banks. They describe the head of banking supervision as a hatchet man. When you sanction, then they come back to the press and ask that, oh, you have to give them time and that. Somebody is talking about, oh, why don't you give the banks more time and that. The issue is that when the rules are violated, there are sanctions to it. We apply the sanctions to its logical conclusion.
In other stories, the executive chairman of GCNet, Dr. Norte Omabo, has described as a mere waste of national resources the engagement of 2 agencies in the operation of the national single window system at the country's ports. The entities have allegedly been engaged in a turf war due to apparent duplication of roles. However, speaking at the sidelines of the 2nd edition of the Trade Facilitation Award in Accra, Executive Chairman of the GCNet, Dr. Norte Omabo, thinks it is a waste of resources to engage 2 agencies for a program that aims to streamline operations at the port. There's more in this report.
GCNet has been the sole provider of IT solution services at the port until the previous government contracted West Blue about 2 years ago to facilitate implementation of the system. The 2 entities have allegedly been engaged in a turf war due to apparent duplication of roles, making some even rather refer to the system as a double window. Government has emphasized the 2 will at least for now have to work together in the interest of the economy. But Dr. Omabo explains the project will not yield the desired result until regularized.
You know, it's laughable, and I say this as a Ghanaian. I do not say this as the executive chairman of GCNet. And look, there was a process, and then another process was introduced. And it does not augur well to the image of the country. Especially when you talk about trade facilitation, you need one single window, you need one single operator, you need a seamless process, and you need to ensure efficiency, and you need to be able to build upon whatever you have on the ground and move into the future.
And that's it for Business Tonight. Many thanks for your company. I'll come your way again with more business in our subsequent bulletins. Meantime, you can always get business news by dialing or by logging onto www.mindyouronline.com/business. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. Have a good evening.
Welcome back to Joy News Prime. Now, at least 2 people have been confirmed dead, with 11 others trapped after a mine pit collapsed at Petransa in the Asante Achim Central District of the Ashanti region. The deceased have been identified as one Abubakar, 35, and Al Hassan, 25, all residents of the community. 2 others have been rushed to the hospital in critical condition. The search is ongoing for other survivors. Lava Firm's Erastus Asarodonko has been following this story and joins me live on the telephone. Hello, Erastus. What is the very latest on this issue?
Well, Israel, the rescue efforts have come to an end. They've really dug deep into the pit, close to where they were digging towards. There was a piece of rock they claimed was full of gold. So they were all digging towards that particular direction when the topsoil caved in. Currently, the excavator has been able to remove all the earth in that particular area, got into the rock and taken it out. We've not seen anybody. So the conclusion by the security agencies is that we do not have any further casualties. We do not also have anybody within the pit. So as we speak, we can not remain with 2 dead and 2 injured. We do understand that there were other 2 miners who were injured because the miners claim they themselves took them to the hospital. But we've combed all the hospitals. We cannot find where exactly they took them. So the figure now still stands at 2 dead, 2 injured.
All right. Now, if you're saying that the excavators had to dig out the pit, could it be that in probably digging out the pits, they may have dug out the remains of those people who should have been survived or were trapped down there?
Israel, I've been asking the same question, but we were there when it was digging. Throughout the rescue effort, we've been standing there and observing. I must say that if there were bodies in there, we would have seen it because they did it in such a way that they dug piece by piece, very close to the pit. They cleared the frontage of the pit up to a certain level where you could see where the original digging place of the illegal miners. So if anybody was stuck in there, we could have seen it before even the excavator will get to them. So being part of it, I must say that we do not have anybody in there.
All right, thank you very much, Erastus Asarodonko, bringing us that update from Petransa there. Meanwhile, managers of Owerri Mines Limited, owners of the concession on which the pit collapsed, are asking government to come out with guidelines to control illegal mining across the country. Administrator of the company, George Frimpong, says they are willing under government arrangement to cede parts of their concession to locals for a regulated small-scale mining to keep them off their property.
Almost every day, day in, day out, we have this menace of encroachers encroaching the site. The land is so huge, it's about 125 square kilometers of land. So you hear some people are working here, you ride the military there, the next day you find them in a different place. So that has been a very hectic hurdle for the Owerri Mines. But we are still coping. But we are spending a lot of money on the military and other security personnel that are working for the mines. The government laid down procedures that every galamsey, even if you have a small-scale license, you stop work for 6 months, they will come out with modalities. We are now waiting for the modalities to come out so that we know what to do, either to give a portion of the land as tributary to the galamseys to work so that they can get something, or to leave them. We don't know what is in the what the government is going to lease in 6 months' time. But if there is a way from what the government will say, I think we will give them a place to work under the tributor system. That one, the mines will monitor the activities so that they will not go astray.
Earlier, Erastus Asarodonko spoke with one miner who, despite the collapse and death of his colleagues, was going about picking rocks he suspects contain gold.
When the ana gold aja no ana ye kakra na dia
to dwen say we ye kura we gold be wo
gold kakra so de na me agba agudia shasa sinu no mo jidi say gold
to o yama benya be say gold be say
we nko ade enti ma me dia say me na boto ba akoma ansa na manya kakra di
Well, he says he believed there's gold in this. I asked him how much gold would he get from this. He said, well, this one cannot feed him unless he gets a sack full of this. And so that is why you're running in here.
That's it. That's it.
Now, we are there now who's a gold. We are there now.
Okay, my human here, the grandee, I need a good sample tie. So if you good sample tie, I test it. You test it, I bones at the yellowish.
That's a see idea. Would you know how you wouldn't mean for a new home?
But sample tie, but more Mujidi.
Well, he says, well, for now, he cannot just look at it and say, but he has faith and he trusts that there is gold in this. And until he passes through the process, he cannot tell me how much he's going to get this, from this, but he thinks there is gold in this, and that is why he's risking his life for it. But wait, anyone if you didn't Jumama for Baha Bessisa, or just say worth it, was exchange for this.
Oh, the women quite a home here, never when I was a common we are saying, Yantino, and the Bemas the one Juma, but Dina may Bressano.
Well, he says his life is more important than this rock, but you see, man has to eat. And so he has to really get something for food in the house. That is why he's struggling. So are you taking this away?
That's it. Thank you, sir.
MP for Asante Achim Kwame Anyimedu Entry says police in his constituency incited illegal miners against him when he tried to prevent the disaster by reporting the illegality. The MP, who described the illegal operations as a desperate move by his constituents, however, warned that if urgent steps are not taken, similar tragedies could occur at the many unregulated mine sites in the area. He's been speaking with my colleague Latif Idris.
I made a complaint to the police. When I made a complaint to the police acted on it very swiftly. Shortly after they have left, someone who was in charge of the site called me that the police had informed them that I directed that they be arrested. And I was shocked. So I got back to they had not even gotten to the police station. It means the arresting officers had told them that. Then I realized that the police are inciting the people against me. When I was there this weekend, I had another complaint that this site was a new site and people were trooping in and out. I sneaked to go and look at the place and it was horrible. The situation is very scary.
Do you remotely suspect that these security operatives in the area have been compromised? Considering the earlier submission you made that the police told them that you gave the tip off.
I wouldn't want to accuse the police now. I think the arresting officers failed in their duties, the ones that the senior officer had directed. I think I would say that they were not matured enough.
You mentioned that it's widespread. It means we have about 1,000 of your constituents engaged in Galamsey.
Oh, yes.
So if you are taking them off, is there any alternative?
Now, the much-anticipated oral examination of businessman Alfred Agbashi Woyome on how he may have spent the 51.2 million cedis wrongly paid him, a judgment that got underway at the Supreme Court on Monday. The well-advertised legal showdown lasted a little over 2 hours with the need for a break to enable Mr. Woyome take his medication. The oral examination is to help the Attorney General identify the businessman's properties that could be attached to help recover the money to the state. Joining us is Joseph Akable monitored the entire engagement and reports.
Dismissal was in order. It only shows that all these attempts by Mr. Woyome are just with a view to avoiding the judgment to the court. But clearly, the day of reckoning will come.
So that was Deputy Attorney General Godfred Yeboah Dami 2 weeks ago when the court gave the green light for that oral examination to take place. Now, the over 2 hours oral examination had the courtroom packed to capacity, including a break that was crucial to enable the businessman Alfred Agbashi Woyome take medication in between. The examination focused essentially on properties belonging to the businessman with regards to 2 companies as well as 2 different houses in different locations in the capital city. Now, Mr. Yeboah-Dame started by questioning the businessman on his occupation, to which he told the court that he was a businessman engaged in businesses. He went ahead to ask him to identify the nature of the business activity he has been engaged in. The businessman then told the court that since 2011 that he started having the legal tussle with the state, he had not been engaged in any gainful employment or any business activity, which has made it difficult for him to pay the debt due the state. He also explained that he has had to transfer some of his shares in order to raise the amount of money required to pay his legal fees. Now, the Deputy Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame tried to, punch some holes in that statement made by the businessman. He suggested to the court that 2 companies, AAW Management Consulting Services and Anata Holding Limited, he said these 2 companies are owned by the businessman and were incorporated after the 2011 data. The businessman had said he had since not been operating. The businessman disagreed in the instance of Anata Holding that was incorporated in 2014. He insisted that that company, even though it was incorporated in 2014, was because of a law that was passed that required that the company be re-registered again, and that was what was done in that context. The other issue that came up has to do with his place of abode, and what was in contention was 2 residents, one that is located at Kokomimle, where the other being at Abelemkpe. The businessman admitted to owning the residence at Kokomimle, but that is located at Abelemkpe. He disagreed, telling the court that he does not own that property and that it's owned by his brother. The Deputy Attorney General applied to the court viva voce, requesting that the businessman be made to supply the said documents to the court. Justice Benin, who is sitting as the sole judge, ordered that the businessman supply details of the said property to the court by close of work on Friday, and also ordered that the court registrar issues a subpoena directing the Register of the Lands Commission to appear before the court to assist the court in that regard. A hearing of the substantive matter continues on October 2 and October 3 due to the legal vacation that is commencing on the 1st of August. But Deputy Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame is clear in his mind that so far they have made some progress.
Initially, he tried to indicate that he had not done any business at all since 2011, but ultimately that was proven to be untrue when evidence was produced to indicate that he had actually incorporated companies in 2016 and since 2011. So I think, yes, the state has actually made some progress, and it comes as quite a relief anyway. It's been long in coming, and so we're happy that we've got it started, and the board has believed that he has some assets. Today he disclosed to us one more asset, Akokomlemle, he admitted owning. There is also another asset at Abelemkpe that the court has ordered him to produce documents to show. So little by little, we're getting evidence on how the state will be able to recover the money.
So the businessman will be in a dock once again on October 2 and on October 3 as questions will be fired at him once again with regards to the properties he owns. What is clear is that the state is asking him 3 main questions. The first has to do with the properties he owns. Second has to do with whether he has the means of offsetting a debt, with the third being how he spent the 51.2 million cedis paid him by the state. Reporting for Joy News, my name is Joseph Akable from the Supreme Court.
His house was raided Monday morning by personnel of the Criminal Investigations Department of the Police Service for allegedly causing financial loss to the state in their Merit Power deal. But former Power Minister Dr. Kwabena Donkor says he's yet to be arrested and formally charged almost 12 hours after the raid. He says he's innocent and ready to assist government in its probe into the power purchase agreement. Now, Joy News is learning the raid was prompted by a recommendation of a committee put together by the Energy Ministry to evaluate the deal. The Philip Addison Committee recommended a renegotiation of the $510 million contract because they believe it was overpriced by as much as $150 million. Speaking to my colleague Elton Brobe, Dr. Kwabena Donkor said the deal was done in a transparent manner and maintains there was no wrongdoing.
As I sit here, I don't even know whether I'm under investigation, but the warrant that the search warrant that the court granted had on it as a reason that I was a suspect for causing financial loss to the state. And as we speak, no one, no committee, no statutory body, no investigative body has ever called me for any explanation or even cautioned me. So it came as a real surprise. I saw the writing only because they had to show me the application to the court and what the court granted. And the application indicated that I was being investigated for, I was a suspect, not even being investigated. I was a suspect for causing financial loss to the state.
Tell us about the raid. How did it happen? You didn't have any knowledge of it prior to it?
No. Parliament, about 6 parliamentary committees were in Koforidua over the weekend, so I came home fairly tired, and therefore, at about 6:15, my daughter came to tell me that there were some people at my gate, and they said they were from police CID, and they wanted to come and search the premises. So I quickly got out, went to see them, and they showed me the search warrant. And on the basis of that, I allowed them into my premises. They were very professional. The police were very professional. Let me commend them for that. But my beef is whoever sent them. I'm a sitting member of parliament. I'm available for whatever investigation that any investigative body is carrying out. I've never been invited before any investigative panel, and yet the state goes to court describing me as a suspect for causing financial loss. I think that is not the best. Somebody above the police is probably calling the tune, and I believe this is political. And if they want to play in the political space, that is fine. The good thing is that I have done nothing untoward.
As far as the Ameridi is concerned, and you can stand up any day and defend yourself.
Absolutely. So I'm waiting for my day in court, since I'm a suspect for causing financial loss to the state. If we look at it from what does the Ghanaian want? The Ghanaian wants competitive tariff. The Ameri tariff is the most competitive. We have done some analysis. Look at the AXA, Senate, and some of the other power plants. If you look at all of them, in 5 years producing at 230 megawatts, you will find out that Ameri is not the most expensive. Indeed, apart from Senate, whose tariff was renegotiated, Ameri's tariff over a 5-year period is cheaper than AXA, is cheaper than Kapa, and cheaper than some of our other existing power plants.
All right, now the Ghana Armed Forces is recruiting, but if you're just hearing about it, then it's too late for you to join this year, because they've already shortlisted some persons who applied earlier in the year who are now undergoing what they call a documentation and body selection process. It's the stage in the recruitment process where those shortlisted are disqualified for a number of reasons, including having a tattoo on any part of your body, whether visible or concealed, being flat-footed, and especially for the women, being well endowed in the front and behind. Yes, you heard right. Joining us, Maxwell Agwagwa has more on the process and what makes him ineligible too.
Safu Kofi, Safu Kofi, Sapon Winfred, Sapon Winfred.
The megaphone here is blaring out names of potential recruits who made it onto the first shortlist for recruitment into the Ghana Armed Forces. Unfortunately, many will be called at this stage, but few will be chosen. Here at the Elwak Sports Stadium, over 5,000 of those who applied from the Greater Accra region have converged. Come here to the Elwak Sports Stadium. Hundreds of these prospective recruits have gathered here, all waiting patiently, some of them with so much anxiety to get to the front once their names are mentioned so they can submit their documents and then later also go for the body check. That is a crucial part of this whole process. I've been interacting with one of the prospective recruits. His name is Douglas Nkansa, and Douglas is fascinated about joining the military.
I'm hopeful to make it.
What makes you so confident?
I'm physically fit, and the height is okay.
No, can't you see? I'm ready. Hey, they are disciplined. They are disciplined. They are disciplined. And they don't involve themselves in corruption.
Similar exercises are being conducted in the various regional capitals. For Lieutenant Colonel Bata Bana, these potential recruits bring back some nostalgic memories. He recalls when he had to take part in a similar exercise many years ago.
Feeling is always that of excitement and that of uncertainty, because naturally when you get to in a recruiting center, you always, one thing that's certain is that you would see a larger number of equally qualified persons that are gathered there. And if you are light-hearted, you certainly would wish that you really didn't take the step at all.
Douglas is optimistic he will be successful in getting enlisted into the Ghana Armed Forces, just like Lieutenant Colonel Bata Bana. He tells me only God can stop him. But that's not the case, as there are quite a few hurdles to cross. Dr. Eric Kwekwa, physician specialist, explains a potential recruit such as Douglas could be disqualified for being flat-footed or for their tattoos.
For the men and women, we look out for tattoo. If you have tattoo on your body, automatically you are out. It is assumed that people with tattoos, they belong to certain cults or certain kind of gangsters or something, and that is not allowed in the military. For a flat foot, you can't wear the boot for a very long time. You have pain and they may end up collapsing. So flat foot in army boots, not allowed. You have to have that arch there. That supports you better. So you can wear the boot for 2-3 days without any problems whatsoever.
For the women, he explains, bodily endowments such as big breasts and butts could be more of a curse than a blessing.
For ladies with very big breasts, very big butts, we don't allow because it impedes the training. Because when you run with a lot of, you can't really run the way you want to run. And for the ladies, we look out for double piercing. Some ladies have a lot of multiple piercing. That one too is also assumed that you belong to certain cults or something. So it's also not allowed for ladies with double piercing. Then we have two types of legs, the bowed leg and the knock knees. When you have that, you cannot really run for the training because the training is very vigorous and intense. So we look out for these things as well. The men, what they do is that they strip everything and leave only the boxer shorts because we need to see the whole body in totality. Some people may have tattoo down there, and if it's covered, you may not see it. Some may have hernias. Once it's covered, you may not see it. So for such people, they need to strip. But because of privacy issues, they leave the boxer shorts on until we are ready to examine the scrotum. That's when they strip down, then we examine the scrotum.
Here at one of the changing rooms here at the Elwak Sports Stadium, these prospective recruits are waiting eagerly to get in there, to have them checked by Dr. Eric Kweku Apia. Now, if you go in there, you'd have to strip down into your boxer shorts. Then they'll do the checks. Now, be very sure that you do not have any tattoo on your body. Now, another thing that they would also look out for is your foot. They'll check whether you have a flat foot or you had a normal foot that is then qualified to be able, to wear the boots. So if you come here right now, all these shoes are down here. And now this is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm also going to remove my shoes and then try and go in there and then find out if I'm also qualified to join the military.
Well, Maxwell Agbagba tells me, well, he's flat-footed and so he can't make it into the military. But talking about the military, well, we've been engaged in some exercise, some members of the team here at Multimedia, and I'm going to be sharing some photos with you in a bit. So here we have this photo. It has, that's Gary L. Smith, Evan Spencer, Araba Kum Singh, and we have Lexis Bill here and Philip Nye. And then we have, we'll show you some more photos. And you can see weapons, pistols in front of them. So you'll be wondering what's happening. So here again, we have Elvis Kwashi. He's a managing news editor. You're wondering what he's doing with an M8 machine gun. I'll be telling you, M80 machine gun. I'll be telling you all about it in a bit. So thank you very much for bringing us, joining us Interactive Aisha. That's it for the bulletin. My name is Israel. Thank you very much for watching as well. Have a good night.
This is Joy News Prime.